Hey everybody, it is Phyllis Serene, and every now and then I get a bright idea, and I go, oh, I need to follow up on that. And this time I'm following up on an interview I wanted to do with one of my former neighbors who has just left me and left Vilcabamba, and wanted to talk to him and get his story because he's going to be coming out to somewhere else in the world, and he's got a story and some really interesting experience that I want him to share with you. So welcome, Harley. Thank you for making it work out so that we can talk to each other and finally get some time to share what you've learned, and I can share what you've learned. And I'm disappointed you left me because remember I had some plans in September to put you to work talking to people, so I'm going I better get into talking to you now while I got the opportunity. And how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good, and we might still be around. I mean, whether or not we're going to leave the country is kind of up in the air. So
okay, good.
Don't rule anything out yet.
Okay, excellent. All right. So tell me about your journey to Ecuador. How long have you been in the country?
I've been here about a year now. I left for a few months to go back to California and kind of get some stuff sorted out.
Okay. And you were talking, well, you're on the coast now, but you are going to be a dad soon, so that's a whole new world. Is this your first child?
Yes, it is.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. That's exciting. And so were you looking for, it's kind of like the parenting thing, you're going to nesting. So are you on your nesting journey right now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that. We're just trying to check out other parts of Ecuador and see, where we really fit and where there's the most opportunity and,
good point.
Just feel it out.
Right. So tell me, I know you came here because your mother was here, and then she passed away, and then you decided to stay. So why did you decide to stay?
Well, I'd met Enrica, who was now pregnant, and that was me. And also, what's going on in the United States right now, I'm just not really comfortable being there. I mean, I predicted a lot of this stuff with the, concentration camps, or, if you want to use a more mild term, I don't know that it's appropriate to. I think,
Not anymore.
it is what it is. I mean, kids are dying, so, I mean, it's definitely,
it's on.
The atmosphere there. Also, I think if you're in a place where the propaganda is that thick and the cognitive dissonance is really off the charts, and there's politicians intentionally fomenting discord, and even Trump has actually tried to instigate violence a couple of times between the two parties there. It seems like a good time to just kind of get out of Dodge in the United States and kind of come down here and see what's going to happen. I think people have this sort of like illusory idea that the United States is somehow special and that certain things just won't or can't happen there.
Right,
and I think that's the...
Yeah.
History has it's all patterns, it's all energy. And so history repeats itself, and I think, now it's America's turn to maybe take some...
lessons.
Take some water,
yeah. Take some lessons. I agree with you, and I'm giggling thinking, wait, a white male is not happy about being in America? It's gotta be bad. I'm like, I left a couple of years ago, 6 years ago going, I'm black, I'm old, I can't run fast, I gotta get out. That was my cue to leave some time ago. But I agree with you, and it's not just one thing, but it's so many things going on. And I saw what I was calling them FEMA camps back in the day, because I used to work in immigration. And so I did that housing of women and children immigrants. So I know what that world is like. And this is a lot worse. I never had anyone die on our watch. And I did that for 2 years. So it was interesting. It was given to churches to manage at the time. I don't know what they're doing now, but it was a sad experience, and it was very painful to be involved in it. But now watching kids die, I'm like, that's just ignoring them, basically, with how that works out. But there are so many other things happening in America, and I do these recordings for people to get out and have an opportunity to see what else is out there in the world. So what did you think about Ecuador?
Well, it's a great place, I mean, obviously a big part of the reason I'm here, I actually, my journey with plant medicine actually started at an incredibly young age, second grade. I found a book in the school library that had slipped through because it was just simply entitled Flowering Plants. I don't think they realized that it was a casting a favorable light on psychedelic plants. And so I believe that there's something in us, you know what your calling is, from before you're born, maybe,
right.
So it's like I always was kind of drawn to these things that would have a greater significance later on in life, you know what I mean? So I've been fascinated with ayahuasca since before, up until like the late 90s, I was the only person I could find that had ever heard of it,
Wow, yeah, you were in the late 90s. Woof.
Yeah, I mean, I've been studying this stuff my entire life, so, to come down here finally and have those experiences and also to discover that, I had a talent for, guiding and facilitating. I think it was like my third ceremony or something, and the shaman came over to me and he said, these people have all drank medicine 50 times, and you're helping them, you're guiding them, he said, you're obviously becoming a shaman, and, he gave me the advice to, actually not to watch the hands of the master, to learn directly from intuition from the plant, and so, that was cool to get that confirmation that I felt was calling my whole life, and then, it was almost immediately, the shaman tells me this, and, I was like, wow, that's really good. And so since then, I don't do ayahuasca ceremonies yet. That's something I feel like takes some years, mostly because, physically, I still have a hard time functioning sometimes, and you have to have your sea legs if somebody's having a problem, you know what I mean? So until I've really mastered myself physically, I just don't feel like I can go there. But I have been doing San Pedro, Wilco, and also the dimethyltryptamine from the toad.
Bufo alvadius.
Yeah. It's an extraordinary thing to, every ceremony you see at least one person significantly transformed, and sometimes it's everyone, but, it's infinitely rewarding to have had these healing experiences myself and to be able to pass that on to other people. When I have a 70-year-old man tell me he's never felt more spiritually connected, I'm going in 70 years?
Yeah, thank you.
That's a big deal to me. Anytime that I'm able to encourage the evolution of consciousness, you know what I mean? It's an evolution revolution, you know what I mean? That's what we're looking for. Prying open third eyes, squeegeeing the four eye off the world.
I love it. Prying it open, bro. Whatever it takes. I agree.
Yeah, and it does work. Consistently, I see people snap out of all kinds of different. I had recently a girl that had some serious damage with the masculine. And, it was clear that she hated me just because I was a man during the first ceremony. It was actually pretty tough because she really had some serious, and by the first day we drank the San Pedro, and then the next day we had the Wilco seed, and she was snapped right out of that whole trauma, a lifetime of just hating men, and she just, it was incredible, just like the plant led her to whatever realization. It cast light on the things that we can't see alone, and over and over again, you just see all these people shedding skin and through shadow,
That's the beautiful part about the medicine journey is that it's not, in the West, I heard it first about taking care of addictions, and so I was like, I don't have an addiction, I want to take care of. So I didn't realize it was I knew it was another door of consciousness, but that didn't mean anything to me. So I was like, is it high? Am I just going to get high? I'm like, okay. I didn't like the throwing up part about it, but when I realized you can heal emotional and seeing levels of yourself that you don't see, and that was the part that was like, oh, now that's some real healing. That gets to the root of a problem beautifully. So I'm grateful for that. So let me ask you, because you've done different medicines, and you also do rapé. Now, do you make your own blend of rapé? And tell us what rapé is.
Rapé is a ceremonial tobacco snuff. It's used as different medicines. Different tribes have different recipes, I guess. They're generally very well guarded. They don't talk about what goes into their rapés. And that's actually Enrica's. She's the rapé girl.
Okay.
So yeah, we have different rapés for different applications. We have one that has some ayahuasca vine in it. We customize them too. If you want one that has ayahuasca and a little bit of Wilco, you get a little bit psychoactive there. But And then there are also, you know, like guayusa is for dreaming and for mental clarity, and you know, it's treated as a master plant by some of the local tribes here. You know, they have these big ceremonies where everyone gets together and the whole tribe drinks the guayusa tea in the morning, and they share their dreams, and you know, so the guayusa de matico is a healing plant. You know, it's used for all sorts of different energetic cleanses and also for physical ailments. So yeah, we have quite a few. Our ash is eucalyptus. So basically the way that it works is, you know, you need, usually with plant alkaloids, or a lot of them anyways, you need some kind of activator. So the ash kind of acts as the activator to get the rest of to potentiate the rest of the plants.
Got it. Is there? Go ahead.
Eucalyptus ash base, and then the mapacho ceremonial tobacco, and then you know, whatever other herbs and plants are.
Let me ask you this. I was told this when I first got here by an Ecuadorian, that there is a stair-step kind of a process to the plant medicines. You know, that a lot of Westerners have heard about ayahuasca and we come and do ayahuasca, but her recommendation was you start with rapé, and then go to marijuana, and then go to San Pedro, and then go to ayahuasca, and then go to Wilco. Your thoughts?
There's no set approach. I would say that, like, I sort of agree with that, but the thing is with psychedelics, they all have a slightly different purpose. Some neurobiologist, Dennis McKenna, the brother of late great Terrence McKenna, his theory, and this is shared by other people at this point in his field, but the nervous system, in his opinion, screens out most of the universe. You know, we only perceive like 1%.
Right.
So, you know, there are all these like geometrical energies pulsating around all the time. We wouldn't be able to hunt a deer or drive a car or whatever. So these filters in the mind kind of screen this stuff out. Also other people's thoughts, you know, the telepathy and stuff. So the different psychedelics bring down different filters and to varying degrees. Okay. So which latter rung is appropriate depends on the person, it depends on your objectives. You know, why are you taking the medicine? Okay. San Pedro has a very different function than ayahuasca in the healing process.
Sure.
You know, so then Wilco, you know, they're all very different, and that's one of the things. You know, I think the evolution, shedding kind of the manacles of tradition a little bit, is important. Integration with other systems. Because a lot of time back in the day, traditionally, a lot of shamans only work with one plant. It was like Allah. And I think that, you know, it's much better if someone knows how to utilize all these different plants so that they can tailor, you know, what for an individual, like what the process needs to look like.
Got it. And one of the things, the terminology that I've learned here again was the difference between a shaman, which is the medicine man, or we call him Sangoma in Africa, or a curandero in Mexico, versus a plant medicine facilitator, which I would call a pharmacist. You know, it's like someone who's specializing in it, but not maybe doing other medicine services. Are you seeing the same thing, and how would you define? You were on the shaman track, correct?
Well, I mean, the problem with the term shaman is that it's actually not a thing. It's Mircea Eliade, ethnobotanist maybe, or not really sure exactly what, but very famous for anthropological studies, and he actually coined the term shaman, and it specifically refers to a healer that works with psychoactive plants. So, like, but it's not, there's no such thing as, like, you know, a protocol for a shaman, because every tribe is going to have different, you know, variations and whatnot. The interesting thing, though, is that all of these tribes all have shaman. You know what I mean? Whatever you want to call them.
Sure.
Independently, like, this role developed in pretty much every culture on the planet.
Exactly.
You know?
Right.
So that's a very interesting thing.
Sure. It's a needed role in every community. So yeah, I can see that evolving to that. And when so are you comfortable in one ceremony doing different medicines, or do you have if you go, it's an ayahuasca ceremony, we're just doing ayahuasca, you don't mix them up, is that correct?
No. That can happen for sure. In fact, with some tribes with San Pedro, it's actually traditional to take yopo or wilco. towards the end.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Some people do this with ayahuasca too, and that's really going to put you out there. That's going to be really strong.
See, I've done enough. I've done 6 ayahuasca journeys and 1 Wilco journey. None in this country, and I'm kind of like I think I've opened up the door enough, and understood what's on the other side. Got some messages. I'm still trying to incorporate those in my life. And so would you recommend, because I know a lot of people, the San Pedro has been always one, like sassafras. That was another one that was given to me, was great for the heart. And I was suggested one time when I met a Peruvian shaman who was in West Hollywood, of all places. I thought we were going to have ayahuasca, and he brought out sassafras. And he gave it to us because he said most Westerners, have an overdeveloped mind, but an underdeveloped heart. And his work was just, let's build up the heart area. And so I felt the same way with San Pedro. It was like a really big heart expander versus, it was pretty and there was colors and those kind of things, but it was an emotional experience more than anything else, not visions that way. So each medicine has its different role, but and the mixing of it seems like an interesting combination, but you would not necessarily mix a San Pedro with an ayahuasca in the same journey. Is that right?
Some people have been doing that. When I first heard about that, I was a little bit concerned because ayahuasca can be dangerous when it's mixed with a lot of things. So
okay. Good to know.
Apparently, as long as you don't, I wouldn't. That one worries me a little bit, honestly. I know people do it safely, but it doesn't. It's the way I understand the chemistry. I don't know that it's a good idea. I would not do that myself.
Good.
Although I do think that it can be very good to take San Pedro. Like, people will stay up all night through the ayahuasca, and then without sleeping in the morning, they'll take San Pedro.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's not bad after waking up after ayahuasca. You may need a little San Pedro.
Yeah. So, it's safe. Mixing things with ayahuasca can always be a little bit risky.
Sure. So you have worked with plant medicines. Have you worked with the chemical versions like LSD or MDMA?
Yes, and actually I think it's unfortunate that people, there's a tendency to kind of feel like LSD is like somehow not as valuable as the rest of these compounds because it was created by man.
Right.
And the way I look at it, it's one of the few times that man has screwed around with nature and actually done something good.
Ooh.
I see it as like it's an example of what can happen if we work with nature instead of against nature. And like I said before, they all have different functions. MDMA, for example, is good for PTSD, and couples that were given it in conjunction with therapy were together 5 years later, like 85% higher success than without MDMA. Just massive. Decisions that I've made when I've taken MDMA in the past actually followed through later. It's not like I just got high and thought, I should do this, and then didn't do it. I followed through on everything, I noticed. And so, I think it's unfortunate that some people write these things off just because they're not natural. I think it is important to make sure you know your sources. And
right.
If you're going to take something like LSD, you know that it's LSD. But, they did some studies recently at Princeton with LSD, and they did brain scans, and there's electrical activity in parts of the brain we don't normally use. We don't know exactly what that means, but it sounds good to me. And, there's 100 times as many neural pathways being formed, so if you're directing the mind, you can learn things, hundreds of times faster than in a normal state, as long as you don't take so much that you're overwhelmed. It's kind of like in recent years, the X Games athletes, it's like standard protocol for them to take 100 mics before they compete. It's considered cheating. LSD,
and that's a microdose, though, isn't it? And not a micro?
100 is like a low dose, but I wouldn't say micro.
Okay. And they're before they compete?
Okay. Yeah.
And what?
I'm experimented with this as a musician too. I've gone out and played and then taken 100 micrograms of LSD and gone out and played again, and every time people are like, wow, what got into you tonight? I've never heard you sing so well, or something to that effect. So I knew it wasn't just like, okay, I'm high and I think I'm killing it. You know what I
Right.
mean? There would be like a marked difference in the response in the audience. And so, I mean, and also we think, well, couldn't you do that naturally? And it's like, well, you're like literally
No.
improving the hardware.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you
No,
can't
you can't. Right. Exactly.
do that, you know what I mean? So.
So,
There's all kinds of extraordinary things. I definitely recommend people look at these newer studies. There's the brain scans are online. You can check them out yourself. And also, some of the things the researchers said that a 55-year-old brain can learn at the same rate as a 5-year-old again with regular LSD because the neuroplasticity too. So you're able to hardwire new habits to wire old habits.
Okay. So tell me, most experience, I've never had LSD or MDA introduced to me in a medicine manner. It's always in the party scene or that kind of thing. And frankly, for me, LSD didn't do anything for me. And I was like, well, how much do I got to take of it before I can get something? Because I was like, And finally, I did have enough one time that I went, oh, I get it. But it wasn't a guided journey, and I was kind of like, okay, I'm out here and I'm seeing stuff and I'm experiencing stuff, but I didn't really feel like I utilized the medicine as it should. So how would you recommend people, if they don't have a shaman and they have the chemical options, how can they use it as a medicine rather?
Well, I mean, again, it's going to depend on your objective. For me, I see LSD as like a learning tool, a creativity enhancer, an aphrodisiac. You know what I mean? Like, I generally would not take like mushrooms and then go try to perform because physically, so it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. But, one really good example is that if you, combine like, say, pranayama with 100 micrograms of LSD and you're trying to rewire or get rid of a habit. I did this with cigarette smoking. I smoked from the time I was 9, I think, and at least a pack a day for decades. Right. And every now and then I will have one. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm definitely not a smoker anymore. And the way that I did it is I actually just took a small amount of LSD, went out on the deck, and breathing with pranayama. You inundate the brain with oxygen, which empowers it to do its work, and then you deprive the brain of oxygen, which leads to altered states, and so you back and forth like this with the LSD, the brain is going crazy wiring as long as you're focusing and directing it. The next day, I forgot that I smoked until I found the cigarettes in my pocket at like 7 o'clock at night. It didn't even occur to me to have a cigarette. Like, it was that effective.
You rewired your own brain beautifully. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. I'm ready to go find some LSD again. I need to rewire my brain from getting off these cookies and sweets. And you guys are bad at that too. You had the cacao going on here. We didn't even talk about cacao. Have you worked with cacao at all?
Yeah, well, I mean, not in a ceremonial context so much, but I definitely have a profound appreciation for it. Obviously, it's super high in antioxidants. I think it's like the second highest of all food. I can't remember what it is, the name, but there's something that only blue-green algae has, as well as cacao. It's only found in those two.
Okay.
It causes serotonin increase. I mean, there's just all kinds of reasons to eat cacao.
Okay. And raw. That's the best way?
Yeah, pretty much anything is going to be better raw.
Yeah, okay. Of course. All right. Now, I have enjoyed your videos, and I was telling a friend, and we were talking earlier, I said I was looking up Wilco, and I went, I got to learn how to make it because there's trees everywhere here, and you can find the seeds everywhere. And as soon as I get up on YouTube, who do I find? You! He's the Wilco man. So, and you've gotten almost 6,000 views on that. When did you do the video? And you're starting to definitely become the plant man.
Yeah, I don't know how long ago that one was. I mean, it's been a while now. It's been a while. But my San Pedro video, I think, is up to like 40,000 or something now. That's the one that seems to be getting the most views.
Nice. And what do you want to... So did you do the series? Because you've done lots of different topics. You're talking about your Freemasonry background, which I want to talk about next. But plant medicine. So you're kind of doing it's an interesting, your own shaman journey, shall we say it that way. You're on your own journey and putting these pieces together. So the plant medicine has been part of your life. So talk to me about your Freemasonry study and that journey, what that's been about.
Well, those two worlds are actually more connected than most people would think. In fact, one of the most interesting things that I've noticed with dealing with the plant medicine with the background in the Western mystery schools is that there are a lot of parallels that are difficult to explain. For example, in Freemasonry, there are two pillars that are symbolic of the dark and the light, and we're the middle pillar in the middle trying to harmonize and transmute and do all that.
Yeah.
So they have the exact same concept expressed with three coca leaves in Bolivia, and also in the lodges, there are basically two paths. There's the brothers of the left-hand path, and they're out for themselves. Basically, it's kind of like what you would think of as like a satanic secret society.
Or service to self, they like to say. Service to self. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty extreme service to self.
Yeah, well, yeah. They're good at it. That's what I said. Only 1% can really do it well. So I'm like, okay, it's hard.
Yeah. But then there's the right-hand path as well, which is where you're working for the collective. You're using magic to establish a line of communication with the holy guardian angel or the higher self, and that's pretty much all you're doing with it. So we're getting a little bit off topic there, but the thing is that with in the jungles of Borneo, they say that a dark sorcerer is turning to the left, and that a healer is turning to the right. So I started to notice these parallels in different systems of magic that are the same all over and when you have a consensus like that, the people that have not communicated, it's generally an indication that there's something to it.
Right. The consistency.
So
Yeah.
And the secrecy is also something that magicians, shamans share. You don't want to reveal your sources of power, and they don't really talk about things too much, and that's that also struck me as kind of interesting. But with me, a big thing is integration. I want to see all the best parts of all these different systems combined. And I think that's when I do see problems with shamans, and I see, for example, misguided but good intentions. Sometimes I've seen shamans actually do damage, making assumptions, and some of that is coming from the Catholic influence. For example, there was a woman who was lesbian, and I think the shaman was conservative, and he just assumed she must have been molested or something to make her gay. And then he sort of started suggesting, you just don't remember this memory, and sort of planted this idea of this trauma in this woman's head. And honestly, I don't think it happened. So she became convinced that she had this repressed memory. Just planted by this. And for me, I would never suggest something like that. I would try to see if I could dig it up maybe, but you just don't do that, And I understand that because I also have a background in studying psychology. You know what I mean? So I think that it's really time to integrate all of these systems so that we can be the most effective that we possibly can. And the Western Mystery School tradition has very powerful teachings, and that's what it's allowed them to take over the world, basically. This is not conspiracy theory. It's definitely true. You see the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill, with a floating eyeball. It's strange to me that people don't think that's a little bit weirder than they seem to.
I know. Well, you grow up with it as a child, and you never question it. And it's never explained to you, so it's just part of the background. It's never brought up as an issue. And I remember the first time it was brought to my attention, I'm like, this has been here all along. This has been here for hundreds of years. And when, it was not the Proctor, I think it was the Procter & Gamble's son, the family member who did a whole thing on the pyramid and the different levels of the pyramid. And I went, well, snap. They had a plan. They've been working their plan for 200 plus years. And I'm just, catching up, trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, it goes back to Egypt and Syria, actually. It's actually a lot longer than, it may have been...
yeah, that's true.
Just in the United States for a few hundred years. But most of what they were doing is, it's all ancient mysticism. A lot of it's drawn from Hebrew mysticism. And... we don't really know what the origins of the rest of it are. I once received that it was a star tribe transmission, basically, that, interdimensional beings made contact with some folks in Syria or Babylonia back in the day and transmitted this secret doctrine to them. And so, but there's a lot of different stories about where it all originated. The important thing is that it is very empowering. And I think the association with negative and it's not to say that there aren't people doing negative things with this knowledge,
Sure.
but I think it's kind of caused people to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and they kind of disregard and don't really look into these systems because it's been cast in such a negative or silly light. So people just, and I think they're encouraged to kind of ignore it.
Right.
You know, and basically what it comes down to is understanding that all energy, all systems are basically governed by the same laws, whether they're physical objects or human beings or whatever. So you're using an understanding of energy, consciousness, and geometry to model everything you do on nature, basically. What's the most successful system? You know,
Sure.
it's this, you know. So the pyramid, for example, is the most stable object. So that's why they've structured their societies and empires like a pyramid. You know, it's like that sort of logic that makes this stuff so powerful. And of course, also, you know, there's the working with the energies directly with consciousness, but that's an entirely different.
It's opening a whole nother door. Okay, all right.
Yeah, but it's basically what shamans do as well. You know,
Right.
it's sort of the same general idea. You know.
So tell me what you're going to be, your goals. I know you're moving and doing some transitioning and changing and exploring, but you're on the healer path of the shaman path, on the white path, I guess, on that. How do you see yourself living that life, and how's that manifest for you?
Well, one of my objectives, I feel like it's very unfortunate that spiritual people kind of turn their backs on money because, you know, it's like they see it as like the root of all evil and corrupting and all that, but there are certain parameters in this world that are dictated to us and not by us. Mm-hmm. And one of those is that money is power. Mm-hmm. So if you want to change who has the power, you have to change who has the money. Mm-hmm. So I would like to see people that are evolving their consciousness trying to get paid. You know, I mean, we have to empower each other. Right. We have to empower ourselves. You know what I mean? And I think it's just a change in perspective. Mm-hmm. You know, the hippie thing was cool, but obviously, you know, they didn't get enough power because they hated money. Right. You know, or they decided to give up on their ideology and just go chase some money.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's an interesting thing. We do have this conflict between, you know, I always want to say, if you're focused on work, you're in your left brain, you're not enjoying any plant medicine, you working, you hustling. And when you are exploring and you get to the other side, you know, that's the hardest thing I had realized. I came back to, I was like, I don't want to go to work. I'm like, that was an amazing experience. I want to explore that the rest of my life. I want to know what else is going on over there. And you're right, it doesn't pay the bills though. You know, that exploration is something I need to do on my own time, but and the guide and the shaman's job is to help you do that exploration, which has definitely become an industry. You know, the ayahuasca industry is definitely, we see that happening now. But it is and I'm in that business as well. I'm like, how do I lift it up for healers? How do I get their words across? And I wanted to raise the bar and a standard so we know what we're looking for. Because I get tired of that. Oh, I went to, you know, South America to do the ayahuasca and I had a horrible experience. I'm like, did you investigate? Well, no. I looked online and I went, did you look at any videos? Did you talk to anybody who had done it? You know, none of that. So we don't really learn the due diligence, our own responsibility for taking these paths. And I want to blame our Western medicine, you know, that we just trust the doctor and you tell us what to do. I see the role as a shaman a little more clear to monetize, but yet that's even hard. And I understand, you know, when you're part of a tribe, it's one thing, you're going to be taken care of. But, you know, when you are out there doing as a professional and offering a service that is like any other doctor you'd pay for, there is an expectation of energy exchange, as we like to call it down there. So given that, would you want to continue as a shaman path, or would you want to take another path?
Well, yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm doing several things. I mean, obviously multiple streams of income is important. Also, when it comes to the plant medicine, I have a policy of like, you know, if you don't have any money and you need the medicine, I will make it and administer it for free. You know what I mean? That's not. So, you know, I'm doing a bunch of different things,
Right.
trying to create multiple streams of income. You know, I was even looking at drop shipping, seeing if I could find like an ethical way to do that. And basically with my YouTube channel, one of my objectives there is I'm kind of documenting the whole process so that, you know, should I succeed, other people can kind of use it as a model to see that it is possible to liberate yourself, to do something that is in accordance with your true will so that you don't have to be a slave and a puppet. And I'm starting with nothing to try to demonstrate that you got no excuses, you know, and so far so good, you know.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't punched the clock in 10 years.
Yay! Oh.
Right. I mean, you know, and it's not like I've been like thriving the whole time, but I definitely haven't gone hungry either. So, you know, and that's the thing, you know, just to try to figure it out myself and then share that knowledge with other people so that, you know, we can all become empowered and do some empowering, you know.
Got it. Oh. Got the big trucks coming by. Okay. And you were talking about Europe. I thought that was quite fascinating. You're looking at Germany. Was there anything in particular that drew you to that culture?
Well, Enrique's a citizen there.
Okay. Okay.
Her she's very close to, so I think, you know, we just kind of wanted to, I was trying to create an excuse basically to get her out there to see him, you know.
Good. That's where she got baby with mama around, please. Yeah, make that easier. Okay, I do want to ask about, I want to go back a little bit about Masonry. You identified it as the Western mystical path. Mystery school. Mystery, yes. Are there any other systems that have been brought into the West, or has that been the primary one? Because I can't think of any. I didn't know any other ones.
Well, I guess what we think of as the Western occult tradition, most of it.
Thelema. I'm thinking of Aleister Crowley. That would be he would categorize.
That's still Masonic mostly,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all the same systems, you know. Basically what happens there is every once in a while, Masons will break off from the main body because they have differences in dogma or whatever, and they'll start like, you know, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was founded by two 33rd degree Masons in 1888. And then there's the OTO, the Order of Templi Orientis, which is a left-hand path, but also was founded by two 33rd degree Masons that broke off from the main body. Okay. And so anytime you have a 33rd degree Mason, they can start a new body, and it's considered an authentic lineage.
Okay. Got it. All right. Well, then they have the right to do so, whether they go left or right. And so are there more lefts than right, or more rights than left, or a little bit of everything?
I think it's pretty well balanced. It's probably split kind of down the middle. It seems to be how the universe does things. So
kind of that polarity rule, duality.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, one of the interesting things about the thing with the left-hand path and the right-hand path is that on the right-hand path, you don't look down on the left-hand path. You understand that everything in the universe has a purpose or it wouldn't be here. And it's like, you know, we choose not to be those guys, but we don't like hate them or look down on them because they have a function that they serve. And it's, you know, and ultimately, spiritually, it leads to their destruction. They're paying the ultimate price for doing what they do.
Yeah.
You know, they say that they will not continue.
Yeah.
You know, basically, the cycle of incarnations is going to stop for them.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. And when you think about it, when you're making a choice, it's like, okay, get rich in this life, have lots of money, or, you know, help a lot of people. And hard temptation. I can understand the pull and the draw, but the cost is difficult. That left-hander's got some, dark work to do, and I'm like, dang, buddy, I don't know if I want to go there. So that's, and Hollywood and the pedophilia rings and all of that coming out, you're going, ooh, ow. And I'm hearing the name of Kulu, is that, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, the wasting disease from drinking too much blood, human blood. I was like, that's not good for you, don't do that. Can't tell nobody nothing. All right. Okay, now I want to ask about your if I may, and we can skip this part, about your upcoming new old life coming into your life. You mentioned this new soul is actually an old soul.
Oh, yeah, that is kind of an interesting story, and I will tell you actually what happened with that. So my mother committed suicide last year, and that obviously that's a lot. So we were talking about the Yoko, the Wilco seed earlier. We did a ceremony with a couple of guys that I did not know. They're from Germany, you know. And at one point in the ceremony, one of them asked me, "What happened with you and your mother?" Because we had a really bad exchange last time I saw her. And I was like, what? You know, and then he started taking on aspects of her personality, and I was just totally, obviously I wasn't prepared for this, you know. He knew a bunch of things he couldn't possibly have known, so thinking, wow. And they do speak of Wilco as like and DMT in general, that it puts you in contact with the realm of the ancestors. So that happened, and then maybe 2 weeks later, I went out to the jungle to drink ayahuasca with Enrica, and so we're out in the jungle on the deck of this house, and there's these like spirit beings that have formed a circle around me, and they do this real weird slow dance, and I'm watching them, and it's like clearer than I've ever seen them before. And actually, one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life, at one point there was one female spirit being, it reached for Enrica, and I saw Enrica sit up and reach back at this, and I'm like watching this going like, really? But then at the last moment, the spirit being was like, just kidding, you know. And I saw Enrica fall back all dejected and sad because it didn't hug her, you know. So that was crazy. But then all of a sudden, my mom is there, like, flies down out of the sky, and all the spirit beings turn into, like, demons, and there's flames, and my blood turns ice cold. Later, Enrica told me, because I was trying to get her attention after a while, and she wasn't responding. So she tells me later, yeah, it was like everything turned to skeletons and death, and so it affected her, this presence.
Yeah.
And so long story short, my mom flies off into the stars, we go out in the jungle and do a ritual with some tobacco, and as I'm walking back out of the jungle, Pachamama, the voice of ayahuasca, says to me, I got some news for you. And I said, well, what? And she said, your mom didn't go into the stars. She went into Enrica's womb. And a few days after the ceremony, Enrica says, you know, I think I missed my period.
Ooh, snap.
So, yeah, that was crazy, because we had no idea that she was pregnant when I received this information from Pachamama, and lo and behold.
Right, here she is. Well, you get to welcome her back to the family. So that's
I'm not entirely surprised. I mean, you know, a lot of people have the idea that, like, we're sort of like, you know, the way like a molecule, you know, an atom has its protons and neutrons and everything spinning around it. And so it's like those people are always just in orbit, whoever your family or closest friends, you know, it's one thing doing one thing, you know, the universe really. So it's all reflections. In some way, we all function like an atom.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it always is.
Right.
And I just have an awareness of it.
I remember in the 80s when I first started looking up reincarnation, and pre-internet, so you know you had to read all the books. And there was a story about Middlesboro, Tennessee, and it was this whole community that had tracked their reincarnation stories. And so they, you know, it was a mother, son, one life, and da-da-da-da-da. And it was such an interesting relationship they had to work out. That was the challenging part, because you get to raise your mom, and you know that ain't going to be easy. So I'm going, how you going to pull that off, bro? I can't wait to see this child. So come back over here. We want to watch this one. But I know it's true of all of us. I know we all have those kind of relationships that are here to teach us. And one thing I want to say, because I do know a little background with your mother, that she had a long-term illness. So it wasn't just one of those, yeah, I'm depressed and I'm going to kill myself, but there was I'm in a deaf doula, so we go in end-of-life choice that was made, and she was making that choice, and I went, I get that, I understand that, after a lot of pain for a long time, but she coming back. So how about that? you get your mom back. How cool! And and you get to work out some relationship issues. So now the question is, if you're going to have a girl or a boy. I assume it's going to be a girl, but that way she...
That's what I'm thinking, but who knows?
I know. We'll see. I can't wait to see her, especially because little girls can wrap daddy around their pinky, so I can't wait to see how that works. You'll have fun with that. Okay. Well, all right. So you're traveling. We hope to have you back in Vilcabamba soon. And what's next? You're doing music on your travels, I know, and you're exploring. But how can we find you on your YouTube channel?
IllumiGnostic is the. Yeah,
I'll put it on. I'll put it in there because it's a tough one to spell. I had to look at that one twice. I went, okay, we'll ask about that one.
Yeah. And I have been posting some music videos on there lately. Things are doing really well. I'm really happy about that. It seems like, all the plant medicine and experiences that I've had over the last year or so, it's I feel like it's bringing a new level of maturity, and I've really developed as a musician in ways that surprised me. I'm almost 40, and I kind of thought, this is just what it is. It's not going to evolve. I'm not going to get that much better at it, and that doesn't seem to be true.
Right.
So
right.
That I'm very glad to see. Last night it was an amazing show. I got to play with really highly skilled Latin jazz fusion band downtown in Montana.
Yeah.
So that was great. Sunday night we're going back down to do it again. So.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with you. I think one of the things I have understood about this awakening consciousness experience, I call it a software upgrade for humans. We learn more, we're smarter, we're faster, we're able to, and when I could start understanding math formulas that I could never do before, I was like, how am I pulling this off? Pulling off budgets I couldn't believe I could manage. So I have seen an own shift in my understanding, just my understanding. And one of the things I'm always concerned about when people are going just for the emotional high or the love and light experience, I'm like, that ain't enough. We're in a difficult time on our planet, the Kali Yuga, the hardest time of our cyclical rounds of the universe. And it's going to be tough to get through. And we need the intelligence of the plant medicine, and we need to use it as medicine, as door openers. And Neil Tyson deGrasse Tyson talked about, he mentioned once that when he talked about going to other consciousnesses, the movie Monsters from Disney got it right. He said, instead of just opening the door in the closet and the monster's there, you're opening up a door and you go into their world. You go into another dimension. And that is what these medicines will show you, opening up those doors and letting you see those dimensions. And those are beautiful. And we need those tools because we don't know they exist. We don't know they're possible. But let me ask this. Do you find once you do know the doors exist, do you need the medicine continuously, or can you open the doors on your own? That's our final question.
Well, I mean, for me, it's difficult to because if someone else wants to take the medicine, I have to take it with them. You know what I mean? So it's not like I can just take a break because I want to. You know what I mean? Or that I don't feel like I need to do it or whatever. But I mean, I'm not really tempted to take them often. I mean, it's like also it depends on the person. It depends on how much damage there is. If you've had a drug addiction or something, or some serious injuries, then you may need, it's almost like the weekly NA meeting for some people or something like that. You know what I mean? It's this constant reminder of what your full self is, and so I mean, there's just so much to experience out there. You know? If you're talking about DMT, every single time you smoke it, it's completely different.
Good. That's good to know, because my first experience, I was kind of disappointed. Honestly, I was like, it felt like I was in the back of the infrastructure of a building, and I was seeing the back rows and how things work, and I went, oh, okay, got it. Boring. And then it came back, and I saw this illusionary matrix that we live in, and I went, okay, I see how it works. Okay. But I'm ready for you to come back and do it again, because I'm like, all right, I don't have all the other stuff and the mortar and the pestle and doing all that. I have been collecting seeds, so I would think that would be a nice drop ship business, so is to send some of those seeds back home. We could do something with that, and they got the video, so you can make little kits and put those together. That'd be nice to do. All right, well, good. Hurry up and get back then. I'm ready to let's do something else, and September's coming, and that's when our season gets busier out here, so I hope you enjoy that journey. But I do hope you get to Germany and have a baby and come on home and bring that baby home. And because she'll have her German passport automatically. She'll be a German citizen. Yeah, don't stay too long in Germany. It's kind of crazy over there too. So it's a little safer back here. Come on back here where we have Mandango Mountain to protect us for a little while longer anyway.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Well, brother, thank you. I have enjoyed catching up and getting the stories. And my goodness, you have been doing this a while. So I do hope you'll get back, and I hope everyone will find you and check Harley out. And his music. We've enjoyed his music in town too for the 8 months I've been here. But he has done his homework, and that's what matters to me. Is find the people that do their homework and then ask lots of questions and make decisions for yourself. It is our responsibility to use our own intuition, so let's use it. And the medicines are here to help, and we have shamans that are here to help us with it. And here, one right here. So thank you again.
Yes, thank you.
Namaste. All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon. I'm going to hang